things that I want to do here. I want to talk about, and I've got some scriptures, and I know that there are more, and that's where you come in. But I want to, like, there's a couple ways that I think of all in. Like, I can be all in for Christ, right? That's one part of it. But I think the other part of it, and maybe the harder part of it, is I want to be all in for all of you. Like, and that's, you know, we all have kind of our boundaries, right? And even for the Lord part, we probably have boundaries that we might not be willing to, to admit. Like, if somebody came up or if I heard what I thought was the voice of the Lord and said to go sacrifice my child, I don't know where my boundaries are. I mean, think about it. Like, would you do that? Would you say you're going to do that? Would you be willing to take those steps to do that? That's like, daggone, that, I mean, you talk about all in. That's like, you're not holding anything back. All in. And so I don't know that we're going to get there tonight. Everybody's going to be willing to do that, huh, Sherry? But I think, you know, what hopefully we can do is, I think one thing we have to do is kind of assess where we are in our all in. Like my line for all in could be here, all right? Leslie's could be here, you know. Arnie's could be over here. I'm not saying which line is which way, by the way. But it's probably different for each of us. A lot of that comes with what we're comfortable doing, right? So we really have to kind of be aware of, like, what our all in looks like and how far we're willing to go. Because I think that the kingdom certainly is advanced when we're further in. Maybe that's a better way to say it, further in rather than all in. All in is scary, actually. That's like, I think the Greek for all is like all. That's for you, Mark. So maybe further in. Yeah, I can do that, right? I can do that. So in terms of that, I want to look at some scriptures that, first of all, look at how we feel about the Lord in the all in, and have some examples, and then again have some where it talks about for each other. So, all right, we good? So I want to start off with, not start off, but get into a little bit of prayer here first. So Father, I thank you for this opportunity, Lord, to be further into you. God, to be further into you and to be further into each other as we learn about ourselves and who we are. Lord, inspire us to move closer to that unsafe place, that place that we feel is unsafe, but where there is great, great tranquility found in you. Amen. That's my prayer. All right. So, Matthew 19:21. One of the things I was trying to do is, like, this is the whole context thing. That's one of the areas that I probably could be better at. But this is where Jesus is talking about the rich young ruler. And so I'll start at 16, and it says, "And someone came to him and said, 'Teacher, what good thing shall I do that I may obtain eternal life?' And he said to him, 'Why are you asking me about what is good? There is only one who is good. But if you wish to enter into life, keep the commandments.' Then he said to him, 'Which ones?' And Jesus said, 'You shall not commit murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal, you shall not bear false witness, honor your father and mother, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. And the young man said to him, all these things I have kept. What am I still lacking? And Jesus said to him, if you wish to be complete, go and sell all your possessions and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven, and come follow me. And when the young man heard this statement, he went away grieving, for he was one who owned much property. So, one of the first things to consider is, like, I don't necessarily think this is just about going and selling everything, but I believe it's about putting Christ ahead of everything. So when I was thinking about this, that's the way that I interpreted that, okay? And so, like, this is where discussion comes in, hopefully. But, like, what possessions do we hold dear to us that sometimes get between us and Christ?
Your job.
Job? Yeah. I'm going to write stuff down, too.
You want just tangibles at this point?
Yeah. Well,
As tangible as a job is.
yeah. So, again, from the concept of what do we put before him? So it could be tangible or intangible, I guess. You know?
For some it's homes, others families.
Time.
Right.
Hobbies.
Along with hobbies, priorities, however we personally order things.
Entertainment, whether it's Facebook or movies or.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big one, right?
Security.
I guess life.
Corvette. Yeah. Those are all things that and some of these are really important, right? I mean, there's some, it might be all important, right? We all need downtime, we all need this, we all need that. You know, family, certainly. I mean, you know, one of the things that I think is important is that, or I think Mark has said this, and if he hasn't, somebody can correct me, but like, he will try not to put things in front of his family. He makes sure that he has time for his family. But yeah, that's certainly something. So what do you do? Like, the kid has a ball game, and there's something that you want to go to. So what's more important? Like, do you love the child less if you go do something, or is it okay if it's a 20-game season that you miss something? Yeah.
Or are you taking God with you wherever you're going? See, this is the whole thing, that you don't have to keep him in a box.
Yeah.
You're taking and spreading this around with you.
Yeah.
So my time is spent in my job, but I'm also with God in my job.
Yeah.
I'm, sharing that around with people, So your priority, first things are first. Love God with all your heart, mind, and soul. Okay,
Yeah.
so now, what do I do? Am I putting other things first, or am I putting God first in my life?
Yeah.
I mean, while you're doing all those things, is your mind on God? Like, okay, God, while I'm at my job, am I thinking about God? While I'm at home, am I thinking, hey, Dad, hey, how you doing? While I'm at the baseball game during
Yeah.
the 20-game season, am I, mindful of God being there with me?
Right.
Or am I only focused on the baseball game while I'm there?
Yeah.
and he's completely shut out.
Yeah.
You know, because then you're completely separated. But if you're at the game and you're also mindful of, hey, God's here with me at the same time, you know, I think that God can be included with you all the time, and you're sharing those times with God.
Yeah. Joe?
When you're making those decisions, setting those priorities, are you doing that in the context of conversation with them?
Yeah.
Well, I think some of those things are always going to compete. Like, they just by nature, that's what they're designed to do. So like, some of the ones we started getting at toward the bottom, like security and entertainment,
Yeah.
and even your priorities, and even to some level, your time, your home to some level, because you might have bought more of a home than really you should have purchased because your pride is there, so now it's a trophy for you, so now the job that you are obligated to keep is now serving, you know what I mean? Like, it's, if the foundation of the thing is wrong, everything built upon it is wrong.
Yeah. You're a slave to those things.
Right.
Even though God's with you in all that stuff, but you can never really do anything other than, you know, kind of bolt God on with you or take him with you. But yeah, you become.
Because you're not willing to go back to ground zero at that, in that subject, you know.
So like, if you go back to that, and you know, he's talking about keep the commandments. This guy didn't murder anybody, didn't commit adultery, didn't steal, didn't bear false witness, honored his mom and dad, love your neighbor as yourself. That's a pretty good life, right? I mean, who would, like, I wouldn't mind if that person lived next door to me. That'd be pretty good,
Yeah.
right? Maybe if they were my child, that'd be awesome. But there was still something there that Jesus said, but I'm not the most important thing. Like, the things that you have are more important than me. So,
And we have to understand, he just wasn't surviving. He was rich.
yeah,
And he couldn't give it up.
yeah,
He didn't, you know, God wasn't saying, give it all. He's saying, you know, what's your priority?
yeah,
But at that time when when Jesus was talking to him, was he looking at his heart? And was he saying, okay, you kept all those commandments, but I see your heart, and I see that you hold all your possessions
yeah,
at a higher standard, and they're more important than what I am, so go sell them,
yeah,
because they're more important than me.
And maybe that's why he approached Jesus with all the other trophies.
yeah,
Because they weren't important, but the stuff that he had was more important. So Jesus looked at his heart, and he knew that that's what was important, and he
yeah.
talked to what was important.
So like, nobody has to answer this. But like, what would you give up if you had to give up something? Like, if you had to give up your house. I mean, who said it's just a house?
Yep, it really
We
is.
had to do that. It's just a house.
I had to do the same thing.
But you didn't give up your house for the Lord. Or did you?
No, but I didn't assume, I knew that if I had to lose it, that everything belongs to him anyhow, so nothing is mine. I can't hold on so tight that I'm gonna be angry about it the rest of my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
We did. We gave up our house so he could get off the road, so he could be with the family, which led us back up to here.
Yeah. That's awesome. It's hard too, right?
Very. I cried.
I would imagine.
I did.
I mean, when we moved here the first time, no, that we moved and then we moved. We didn't sell our house right away, and so I had I had enough money to make 9 house payments, essentially. like, the company paid for 2 of them. And then I had enough money to make like 9 more house payments. And that was kind of it. And then I was either, now the cool thing is because it was, 2005 and everybody wanted people to buy houses, that they gave me a second, they allowed me to buy this house here. So I think worst case scenario is, I don't know if I would have lost both houses or how that would work. Somebody else was gonna get a house. Potentially 2.
I noticed when you moved again, you also kept a house.
Yes. But like, and we had just, like, I mean, when I'm talking just, like a month, started our walk with the Lord. And it was freaky. But we just really, really sensed him saying this is where we're supposed to be. And then I'm balancing this whole thing. It's like, crap, what if I lose my house? Can I say that? Anyway. What if I lose my house because of this? And it was a scary time. Now, as it turned out, we sold the house with like,
Days together.
no, actually, it ended up being pretty good. We sold it like after about 3 months. So it didn't come to that point. So.
Well, I think you tapped on it there. You said, well, crap, what if? You're balancing it, is what you said.
Yeah.
And I think that thought process of the balance thing goes against the all-in thing.
Yeah.
Because
That's playing it safe.
all-in is always gonna take you right up to the point where you say no.
Yeah.
That's where you're no longer all-in.
Yeah.
That's where your end is. And so whenever you hit no, that's when you start saying, this is extreme, and it cost me something.
Mm-hmm.
And am I really saying yes here? And if you, like, Mark says that, not shrug, but okay.
Yeah.
If you're still at okay, you're still all in. If you're at no,
Yeah.
you've reached, you're negotiating now.
Yeah.
You're balancing yourself.
You made it like here.
Yeah.
Or like on the entertainment thing, I've seen, possibly even been a part of it, different times of life where you figure out what's the first thing to go so that you have a stronger walk with God. And then you always resort to that, and you don't ever find, like, you're all in with God, therefore you're ruling things out on your own accord that maybe also you don't always have to rule out. It's like, let God guide you, because if you're just going to say, well, that's it, I am done with anything that comes across my TV screen indefinitely, and I'm just going to sit here and read my Bible, that's not really all in either.
Yeah. Right. No. But you have to be careful, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I'm going to take God on Facebook with me. Now, I believe that we can take God on Facebook with us, right? I mean, there's some pretty stinking inspiring writers in our midst here, and so that can happen. But you have to be careful, right? It's like, I'm going to take God to the movies again. I'm going to take God to whatever I'm doing to keep me away from other people in experiencing Him. So, yeah.
I think we have to really forfeit our fear of judgment, our fear of being condemned by others and ridiculed. If the Lord's showing us that we need to walk in a certain way,
Yeah.
not everybody might agree with that. And
Yeah.
we have to say, I'm loved by the Lord. If other people reject me around me, that should be fine with us, because His way is higher, His way is better. If we don't walk into those places, nobody is going to see what's there.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times it's because we're afraid of what other people are going to think of us.
Absolutely. Yep. That's the biggest thing, right? That's one of the biggest obstacles that keeps us away from stuff, is our fear. And that, I love when we sing Pride of Mine. I don't always lay it down, but I like to sing about it. That gets me further, hopefully. Further along. Okay. Cool. So the other one that I have up here, John 13:37. And so this is a pretty direct one. This is like all. Yeah. Doesn't get much more all than that, does it? And this is where Peter is talking with Jesus and says, "Lord, where are you going?" Jesus answered, "Where I go, you cannot follow. You cannot follow me now, but you will follow later." And Peter said, "Lord, why can't I follow you right now? I will lay down my life for you." And then Jesus goes on, and that's where, he says, like, "Are you really willing to do that? And, you'll deny me 3 times. And Peter ultimately gave his life, right, for his beliefs. It just wasn't that time to do it. And those things were probably okay. I mean, it's going to hurt a little bit. And just considering what these things mean. But willing to die, which Peter did do it. Is that, like, if you were one of these folks being persecuted in these villages in Iraq, I mean, that's all in, right? And they're dying. I mean, people are being martyrs. It's not like the most pleasant thing to sit here and consider. But what would you do?
Well, when you see that stuff, it makes you wonder. Even if it weren't that, if you were, say, if your neighborhood is invaded by these people, would you be willing to not profess that you're his follower, or would you be willing to give your, I mean, it's a question you ask, would I have the strength to do that?
Yeah. Like if given that ultimatum, what would you do? Wow, this is kind of a depressing talk. Ethan, was that hand raised, man?
No, I'm just stressing my
Come on.
Somebody mentioned someone in a church one time that these people dressed up as terrorists, and they came in and asking people that they would either have to profess their faith in Allah or they would be killed. And they thought you couldn't believe it, and people got up and left and ran out of the building.
Yeah.
But it was all a ruse, it wasn't serious, but
We are not planning on doing that, just so
No.
you know.
no.
So, you know.
good. I hope not, because there's too many people that pack in that church.
A lot of you, maybe some of you wouldn't make it out of here.
But you know what, I think the Lord's love for us is so tremendous in these processes, because, for instance, if that did happen, and we hired some actors or something to come in and be terrorists on a Sunday morning, and half the room emptied, and we would think that was some kind of an indictment on the people, but what the Lord would use that as a teaching gut check for so many of the people, both that stayed and ran, the way that the heart would be shaped from that evidences the mercy of the Lord. It's tremendous. It's the same with, like, when I said earlier, when you run into your note, the Lord keeps talking to me about that. Even if you keep saying yes, yes, even if you come to a point where you say no and you're hard on yourself about it,
Yeah.
that in itself is the training of the Lord and His love for you. It's His loyalty.
Yeah.
So there is no, like, moment of, like, well, there may be a moment of truth. I'm not saying that, but the Lord is eternal, and so are we.
Yeah.
And so He is persistently developing us into sons.
Yeah.
So even if we do screw up and we say no, that we don't believe, or, all of a sudden Allah is our our new God, or whatever that is, the Lord's love for us will convict us even in that
Yeah.
brand new low.
Yeah.
So we can be really hard on ourselves here and sit here and be like, where's your, like,
Yeah.
but even there, the Lord's like, now you see, now I can work with
Yeah.
that. It's so much love for us, even in that.
Yeah, it occurs to me that Peter denied Jesus 3 times before the book of Acts. If you look at what Peter did on the day of Pentecost, and a lot of the ministry that he had already denied Jesus 3 times prior to that. So we can say no, we can hit the end of ourselves and the all in, and I think that there's still room to come back from that.
I mean, it means that Peter hit the moment where he was no longer going to deny Christ.
Yeah.
He had been through that hell moment enough.
Yeah.
He would rather be crucified upside down than say no again.
Yeah.
Well, I think you can look at this first 2 different ways. We can look at physical death,
Mm-hmm.
but if you think about it, you're right, Peter did die twice, and probably many, many times.
Yeah.
Because how many times do we walk through the process of dying to self?
Yeah.
When we make the whole physical death this huge, big, that would be the ultimate sacrifice. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think, I think these everyday opportunities where we have to make a decision, are we gonna be open?
Yeah.
That is the dying to self that is sometimes harder than if you just take me out and, assassinate
bullet
me.
and-
Yeah, do you know what I
Sometimes
mean?
dying's the easy way out.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
we have to consciously, moment by moment, make decisions that I'm gonna die today.
I'm still
I-
all in.
Yeah, I'm still all in today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tomorrow I might
I
not
like
be,
that.
you know what I mean? So I think it's the perspective that you look at it, because I think we often think, oh my gosh, the martyrs, that's like the ultimate sacrifice. I don't think so.
Good.
How do we, if you're basing your belief off of fear, that's one way, but are you believing in the victorious?
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't we stand up? This is our martyrism, or we go ahead and believe that that's the only way that we're gonna go ahead and do this. But when do we go ahead and stand up in faith and say, just like the guy that was here, that all the bullets went through it?
Yeah.
How much do we have faith? We don't have enough faith to go ahead, so we'll go ahead and take the lesser evil and say, we'll martyr.
Yeah.
Okay, how do you live victorious? That's what Jesus came to go ahead and show you.
Yeah.
You don't have to die this way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's different.
When, so I was thinking, when there's a new revelation, right? And I know some of the things that we spoke about, not this past Sunday, but the previous Sunday. New revelation, new thought, the victorious eschatology. And when you do that, you have to be, there's a part of you that has to be willing to die for that too, right? Because that belief that you held on to, has to go away. Sometimes it can be a painful death, because that's what you've known. So,
Do you take it as a death, or do you just leave it go? Because again, if it's a death, you're mourning it.
yeah,
Just leave it go, and you don't have to mourn anything.
yeah,
It's perspective. It is a whole lot of perspective.
I don't know though, Arnie, I gotta tell you, some of the stuff I've been through, it felt like death.
Yes,
That hurts.
right.
I don't really know how to celebrate some of that. Mark has caught some of my temper tantrums and that's,
It's all that process.
It
So if we
is.
just say, we'll just be done with it, there's no process then.
I mean, I think
Then we get to
Arnie,
that point.
yeah, I think Arnie's approach is the wisest one.
Right.
To not
A lot has to do with trust.
negotiate, but, yeah.
Yeah, we're negotiating, we're trying to go ahead and deal with it, but we actually just have to go ahead and trust God. And that's whenever we leave go, and it comes over us that we don't have to deal with that anymore. We're still trying to, that's part of our identity. We're still struggling with that identity.
I mean, it is true that when you say, I trust him, a lot of your other arguments have to fall.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't be offended. Oh, what? You mean I can't ever be offended? No, it's true, you can't be offended.
Okay, people can't do
Yeah.
Well, just like in Matthew, it said that the rich guy walked away with grief. In his heart he grieved. So how's that any different? I don't even know for real, if Jesus was really saying, go sell literally all your stuff.
yeah,
And he was just saying that to really reveal to him his heart, but it shows then that his heart grieved. Either he was faced with the reality of what he really held dear, or he was faced with the reality of who Jesus really was and who he was calling to.
Yeah.
But the whole point was he grieved. So that this, you know, we miss sometimes in scripture the underlying process.
Yeah.
Like I think a lot about, you mentioned Abraham, like most of us in this room, a lot of us are parents or have people that we love. You just imagine the process of like leaving your home, going to a land that I will show you.
Yeah.
Then, you know, all stuff, so we read A and B, but there's like a place in between that we tend to want to avoid that is real.
Yeah. Yeah, there, so in, because you bring that up, I have like Hebrews 11, and so a lot of our willingness to be all in has to do with faith, right? Like, I don't think if we have faith, I don't know if we're gonna be all in. Like, if, to go all in, to know, you know, if you're just, if, I don't know who plays poker, but if you go all in and you're sitting there holding 4 aces and a king, or actually royal straight flush, so the ace through the 10, same suit, nobody's gonna beat you. That's like as safe a bet as you can do. You should go all in on that one. You don't have to risk anything. You don't have to be concerned about. Like, you have the winning hand.
You're not bluffing.
Right.
Yeah.
And now to go all in, holding a pair of deuces. You know, you're hopeful that nobody else is as confident as what they're holding as what you are, that they don't have anything. And yet, like, in our walk with the Lord, we're kind of holding the royal straight flush, aren't we? Like,
Yeah.
our faith, if we are truly walking in faith, then we don't really have a losing hand there. So it's easier to be all in. But anyway, so faith, Hebrews 11, man, when I was reading that, something stirred up in me. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I'm going to hit pieces of it. Like, if you're ever feeling like blah in life, go there. You know, first go to John 3:16. That's probably a pretty place to go too, right? But man, if you want to see people walking this out, and you want to go to one place, this is a very good place to go. And I'm just going to paraphrase some of it, or not paraphrase, but I'm just going to read pieces of it. But and this is now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. And then it goes on in verse 4, by faith Abel offered to God a better sacrifice than Cain. By faith Enoch was taken up so that he would not see death. By faith Noah, being warned by God about things not yet seen, in reverence prepared an ark for the salvation of his household. Like, can you imagine? Noah was all in. Noah was as all in as it got back in the day, right? I mean, guy's building the boat. Nobody knows what's happening. And he is just so, he is just doing it. Trusting.
Yeah, a lot of scripture in there too.
Do you think Noah funded the boat?
Labor.
I don't know if you saw the movie, you know, they used all these like prop pictures to help build the boat, but
Because to me, that's a whole nother level of.
all in. Yeah, he wasn't going around getting donations, right?
No.
For that.
And, I mean, you can't tend to field and build a boat at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you can, but you're working 24/7.
And it doesn't really make comments about his wealth or anything like that.
Uh-huh.
He was a righteous man. Yeah. I don't know.
It hadn't even ever rained before. And talk about all in.
Yeah.
It was going to rain. No one had ever seen it before.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It never rained.
It had never rained before.
Yeah.
God said,
Yeah.
go. It's going to rain. What's rain?
Yeah.
And what is
And
that?
that was how all in was.
Water falls from the sky, but there's no water in the sky, but it comes down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All in.
All in.
By faith, Abraham, when he was called, obeyed by going out to a place which he was to receive for an inheritance. And he went out not knowing where he was going. Goes back to, the move. Are you willing to move? Just make sure it's the Lord. It's an advertisement there. Testimony. Although, if you move and it's not necessarily the Lord is there.
Uh-huh.
He goes
He
with
makes
you.
a way.
Yeah.
Man, he showed me, he just was all over that thing. All over it. I moved twice. I don't know if you knew that. I moved to Ohio and then I moved back here. So, but I didn't actually,
But Jen only moved once, then,
yeah.
right?
So in a span of 2 weeks, I moved to Ohio and then I moved here. So I was moving all over the place. Abraham moved. By faith, he lived as an alien in the land of promise, as in a foreign land, dwelling in tents with Isaac and Jacob, fellow heirs of the same promise. How many times do we consider that we're in some place that we shouldn't be? That we don't want to be? I got this job that I hate. I don't hate my job. Sometimes I do. Just before Christmas, because it gets really busy.
Just don't mention where.
But, so how often are we like that? Like Abraham was in a place, he was an alien in a place.
But don't you kind of feel like that living right now? I mean, there's so much stuff going on that's so against what you know and hear.
I don't feel like an alien.
That I feel like it's almost like an ill-fitting suit.
Yeah.
Because you know what this says and you look at what's going on out there and you're going,
Yeah, yeah, that's certainly possible, yeah. I mean, you could be an alien because you're living in a place temporarily and you need a better place, or you'd like a bigger place, or you're staying in a room in somebody's house or something like that, and there's a better way. Or not necessarily that there's a better way, but there's a different way.
There's a way out.
Like, so,
God's promises were the way out of a situation. There are promises that God will take you from one place to another.
yeah,
A way out.
yeah.
You don't have to live like this anymore.
there's a scripture too that says he has chosen the places you will live.
But it all
Yeah.
has to
I
do
saw
with
that and I
timing,
was
though.
like,
Timing,
I'm trying to figure out why am I here?
how you perceive yourself, your perception.
Just because you want out doesn't mean that it's going to work with God's timing for you to get out.
True.
Yeah. So by faith, even Sarah herself received the ability to conceive. Is also another one. And then we get down, now we're finally down to by faith, Abraham offered up Isaac. By faith, Moses refused to be called son of Pharaoh's daughter. Like, that's a guy giving up a little bit, right? He had the good life, right, Frank?
As good as you can get.
I mean, that was living large, right? And he knew that wasn't who he was. I mean, it's kind of like getting rid of, he gave up everything for that. So, there's a lot there. If you go down in Hebrews 11:36, so like that's all the like the stuff that gets you fired up, and it's like, yeah, I can do that stuff. That's the gets you fired up. And if you go down to verse 36, here's another part on the all in. It says, and others experience mockings and scourgings. Yes, also chains and imprisonment. They were stoned. They were sawn in two. They were tempted, put to death with the sword. They went about in sheepskins and goatskins, being destitute, afflicted, ill-treated, men of whom the world was not worthy. wandering in deserts, in mountains, in caves, in holes in the ground. I want that kind of all in, right? Give me some sheep leggings or goat leggings and holes in the ground.
But this happens though,
Yeah.
inside. This is like internal, that's when I read this, that's where my mind goes.
Yeah.
Like, that's internal stuff.
Yeah.
And we have the New Testament, a new way of life. You don't see that too much here in the United States.
Yeah.
So August, would you say it doesn't happen at all physically now? Or you're
I don't
saying
wanna
it's-
say
it's
physical,
both?
but I'm saying, like, this stuff is so, this is real. Like, that is, that, when we could talk about the whole dying to self and all the outside stuff that you die to and that you leave and you give up and you sacrifice, but I think he's talking a lot about the internal ground game. It's that, you know, how Mark was talking with it last week or the week before about that internal conquering, how we can't go out and love our neighbors until our internal ground is conquering.
Yeah.
Tell me the part of that process when you are being processed and transformed, that you're not experiencing this stuff, the stoning and stuff, you know what I mean? That looks like something inside.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, being sawn in two. I mean, that is painful. That's a decision to me. That's like, all right, do I want to do this or do I want to do that? I mean, it goes back to the, the wisdom of Solomon. Now you have to make a decision. Decisions are tough. And you can't choose both sometimes. Yeah.
I keep hearing this phrase, to die to self. What exactly does that mean? How do you die to self? Because I don't get it and I don't see it written in scripture.
Where's the verse about they love their lives not even unto death? It's this idea
Acts.
that, like, I think of dying to self more along that lines of they love their lives not even unto death. Like, they love Jesus so much, and yeah, they loved having life, sure. Who doesn't want to be alive? But they were willing to face death,
Yeah.
even though that's not something that they were eager for. They were willing to abandon all because of their love for Jesus.
There's a spiritual principle there too about not putting anything in your heart before the Lord himself, dying to yourself. Everything that you would desire that's outside of him, that you would prioritize above him. It goes back to the rich young ruler.
Yeah.
He had possessions that were his desires that he put before the Lord. And so dying to yourself, it is a physical dying to yourself, and there are some who physically die to themselves to put the Lord first. And then there are some that die to their desires, the things that they love, all of the things that they would prioritize that go before the Lord. So there's two ways of doing this.
It was Revelation 12:11 that I was
Yes,
thinking
thank
of.
you.
Read that. You got it?
What
Yeah.
is
Well, I see just verse 11. If you want the context, it'll take me a second. And they overcame him because of the blood of the Lamb and because of the word of their testimony, and they loved not their life even unto death.
Yeah, because I always hear Mark, talk about it, and he says, stop dying to self and live,
Yeah.
It's all about context.
Yeah.
Yeah, in my opinion, in this
Perspective.
case, the phrase that he talks from is when John the Baptist is in the desert and he says, I must decrease and he must increase. And that was specifically John the Baptist knowing he needed to fade into the recess of the attention of society so that Jesus could surge forward. But that's often mistaught, such that we as people need to
Be lowly worms.
become invisible or whatever, and Jesus just does this magical little number on us. But Dying to self is this process by which you literally just continually lay down flesh and all the things that the flesh produces and all of the desires and motives that your flesh stirs up, and you allow that to become a very uncomfortable place of confrontation for the Spirit to weed that out and to make you like Christ. It's giving up your flesh in a process and trading it for Spirit.
Yeah.
So we abbreviate that, at least that's how I'm hearing it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Dying to
that's what I
self
take
is
from it.
allowing your flesh to not so willingly sometimes go. And all of the emotions and struggle and pain that produces, to trade it for thinking and looking and becoming like Christ.
Okay, gotcha.
That's good.
It's all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is the stuff that makes us ourselves, right?
The things that the world puts on us.
Yeah.
One that your flesh likes. I mean, we
Yeah.
all want a house that's got nice carpet. We all want like a warm, cozy bed. Like, none of us really want to go sell our house and be homeless tonight.
Yeah.
You know?
And God doesn't want you to.
No, that may not be, like, but well, we don't know that. That might be the path that the Lord puts me on. And God love me.
Yeah.
If I sell my house, please give me a place to sleep. I really don't want to sleep on the, like, I often, that may be the path the Lord puts me on. I'm not saying that's, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, my flesh wants peace in my family. My flesh wants a job that pays all of my bills. My flesh wants hobbies that are fun and all of those things. And so
Yeah.
therein lies all in.
What does God want?
Because I tell you what, if there wasn't a homeless person, then somebody wouldn't get that opportunity to be Christ. Now, I'm not saying that God endorses the homelessness
Right.
situation, but I think that there's also plenty of places that he talks about the poor, and he doesn't talk about them going away. He just bless the poor.
As you are in the kingdom,
Yeah.
you go ahead and make allowances to the poor, but you don't have to become poor to go ahead and actually be part of them.
Yeah.
No.
You can go ahead and esteem them higher than yourself and still be that rich young ruler that goes ahead and sells and gives to the poor.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a healthy way of looking at things. That's where a father would want you to go ahead and be.
Yeah.
What does God want? What is God's will?
You know that I wish above all things that thou may prosper and be in health. Therefore I tell you,
Yes,
do not
my
worry
soul
about your
prospers.
life,
Yes.
what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothes? Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they are? Can any one of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your life? And why do you worry about clothes? See how the flowers of the field grow. They do not labor or spin. Yet I tell you that not even Solomon in all his splendor was dressed like one of these. If that is how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and tomorrow, is thrown into the fire, will he not much more clothe you? You have little faith, so do not worry.
And nowhere in there does it say, I'm gonna give you a 3-bedroom house.
But it's all leading up to our favorite things. Seek first the
Clothes on your
kingdom
back.
Yeah,
and everything
And all
else
these
is added.
things will be
that's
added.
true.
Just to add more context, in Luke 9:24 through 25, whoever wishes to save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life for my sake, he is the one who will save it. For what is a man profited if he gains the whole world and loses or forfeits himself? So the original,
Where is that?
Luke 9:24 through 25, the original word for life, where it says whoever will lose his life, is psyche in the original Greek. So God wants us to pretty much to lose our way of thinking. You know what I mean? All those walls that we've put up in our lives and whatnot, and He truly wants to show us, you know what I mean, our original self.
Yeah.
Not based off of our psyche that we've built up from the world around us.
Right.
So
I think that we've
That's good.
put God on this pedestal and think that He wants us to have all these things. He wants me to have a nice house. He wants me to have a nice car. And he wants me to have all these things. And he doesn't, I want me to have all these things.
Yeah.
You know, he really doesn't care about all that stuff. I care more about that stuff than what he does. You know, does he want me to have the desires of my heart? Of course, probably.
Yeah.
But I think I put more emphasis on that stuff than what he probably does.
Yeah.
I think he wants us to know the worth of our souls and the worth of our hearts. And
Right.
from knowing that, what we give out is gonna come back to us, I believe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If we pour out love into the earth, if we pour out the wealth that's from within us, I believe it's gonna be attracted back to us.
Yeah. So, just to clarify, God doesn't hate nice things.
No, no.
All right. So,
So we don't need to be a Mother Teresa and like.
yeah, don't.
I
don't
want,
think
I want
everybody
us just to
does.
be really careful to not put the Lord in that box though.
Yeah.
Because I think he loves to use exactly what we think he won't do.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a single instinct that wants to follow that rule. I just don't.
Yeah.
That's why it's very possible the Lord could say, Diane, give up your house, go do all of these crazy things, and I will look like a nutcase to all you all. Who's the guy? His name keeps coming to me, I can't pull his story together, but whatever. Jim Elliott.
Oh, yeah.
He went to this tribe no one
Yeah.
should ever go to. They knew he was gonna die when he goes in,
Yeah.
and of course, he died.
Yeah.
His wife goes in there, and what happens?
They-
They all proclaim Jesus as Savior.
Yeah,
Huh.
yeah. What's the name of that movie?
I don't remember.
Have
I'm pretty sure I'm paraphrasing half the details.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's true.
But the Lord just delights to do insane things.
Yeah.
So let's just, instead of trying to preserve this idea that he won't take away all of these things that we want,
Yeah.
let's just fall so in love with him. What's, desires of your heart, what's the first part of that verse? Proverbs 3, right? Delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. So it's a possibility that as we delight ourselves in the Lord, the desires of our heart change.
Yeah. Put first things first.
Yeah. That's you know, goes back to asking in his name.
Right.
You know, all right. So I'm gonna ask for this nice 2015 blue Corvette.
Lady,
Randy-
it's a lady.
Yes, that Randy posts on Facebook, and I'm going to ask for it in Jesus' name. That doesn't mean I'm going to get it, because I'm not really doing it with his authority. I guess I could do it with his authority, but I think you guys understand what I mean. All right.
The movie is Kingdom Speed.
So that's kind of the Jesus side of things, like what we're willing to give up and do and that type of thing. So I think the next piece of this is like, what are we willing to do for each other? And that was the 924's. I don't know if it's the same part, but in John 15:12, but it talks about that. You know, this is my commandment, that you love. This is so Jesus talking to the disciples and their relationship for one another. This is my commandment: you love one another just as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, that one lay down his life for his friends. That's any interpretation needed there? What he's saying? That now you could say, is it actual physical? I will lay down my life for you, or you know, is it I'm going to put other things, or I'll put you ahead of other things in my life? I don't know. But
Well, and if you keep going there, Erin, you're my friends if you do what I've commanded you.
Yeah.
No longer do I call you slaves, for a slave does not know what his master is doing, but I have called you friends. For all things that I have heard from my Father I have made known to you. You did not choose me, but I chose you, and appointed you that you would go and bear fruit, that your fruit would remain, that whatever you ask the Father in my name, he may give you. This I command you, that you love one another.
yeah.
You're my friends if you do that. Love.
So it's caring for one another, right? It's giving of yourself. It's opening your house, Frank and Joan, right? It's
As he leads us.
it's that kind of thing that says, I have room. I have room for you. You know, I had a nightmare once. My nightmare was that I was living in my basement and people were living on the main floor. I don't have a big house, but to me it was a huge, I mean, that's a scary thought, right? Like, I can keep my house, but why don't you rent my house and I'll live downstairs? That was the context of my dream. I don't know what I got to, you know, assuming I must have not had a job or whatever it was, but like, that thing scared the heck out of me.
Why was it a nightmare?
Because that was my house.
That was your house. But see, that's the whole thing. You know, why not
Yeah,
have a 3-bedroom house? Because you go ahead and invite other people in.
Yeah.
You're not looking from the right perspective.
Yeah.
I need these things to go ahead and help other people.
right,
You know, bring the homeless into your home.
yeah,
Oh, well, you know, it's my home.
yeah,
That is a nightmare from that perspective.
It's not- it's
But
not-
from a different perspective, you're actually doing kingdom.
yeah. So, my perspective on that, like, a little bit later, and then it sort of came around to me, but I don't feel like I would ever be homeless. Like, I might live on somebody's couch, or in their basement, or attic, or guest house, or something like that. But I don't feel like, because of my relationships, I would ever be homeless. So, I got that after, you know, my nightmare of me, you know. There's part of me that's almost wonders, would it be better to not be in my house in that situation, to be in somebody else's home? But the beautiful thing is that, like, I don't necessarily worry about that. My parents were homeless for a period of time. About 9 months, I think it was. And some people took them in. And I rejected them. And that was embarrassing. It was embarrassing at the time. It hurts now, but at that time it was just embarrassing. I didn't have a heart for the Father that I have now, which is probably why I'm a little bit more willing to open my house. Like my parents, flesh of my flesh. I said, no, you made this bed, you lie in it. Like, I don't know. We've got to be there for each other. We've got to be all in for each other. And I see it. I see it. But I want to encourage everybody to go deeper in that. Like just don't touch on it. Go deeper in that. Be aware of each other's needs. Like, I think that God gives us a wisdom and a discernment to be aware of what those needs are. And some of that's dying for one another. When you give up space in your life, like, there's a part that dies, right? To make room for something else for life. And it's just, we have to be willing to do that. That's more preachy than teachy, huh? Anyway.
I wish there was a way for you to go into more detail on that, because to me, the person that fulfills that mandate in this room more than anyone else is you.
I think there's a lot of people.
I know, but I think that your heart to care for people is
Yeah.
probably the standard in this room, or the example among us right now. So I wish so much that there was a way for me to draw out more, but I don't know what questions to ask.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that prevent us from being all in for each other?
Trust.
Yeah. I want to write these down too because I feel like I should write stuff down.
Trusting God and trusting other people.
So how about if I throw this one out there?
Patience.
Judgment.
Yeah.
I know people in this situation and they deserve to do it, to be in that situation.
Because I'm thinking about that right now, that we have somebody in our church right now facing homelessness.
Yeah.
Why? Like, why is that gonna happen? But I know for me, it's the judgment.
Yeah.
And in that same situation, would we be in that situation?
So I have different thoughts on that, okay? Like, and this is not like, I want this to come across with humility, but I feel like what I've given in relationships or what I've sown into relationships would prevent me from being, that's why I don't worry about, like, I'd be uncomfortable, but I don't know that I would be homeless. And everybody's not afforded that opportunity. I don't know. No, I believe everybody is afforded that opportunity. Unless there's some other kind of thing that comes into play. All right, I mean, you can get into mental illness, you can get into a whole lot of other different things that isn't the form for this, or, this isn't the, but you're right. So why would we have that amongst us? I'll get with you later.
I'm saying, have they made it known to the right people here? That's about to be my first question, or are they?
Oh, I'm pretty sure it's
Yeah.
rather new.
Okay.
Okay. But that,
Related to that for me is stewardship.
yeah.
I take kind of ownership. I take ownership of what I have to give.
Yeah.
And so I really want it to return a harvest, not for me necessarily, but to go as many miles as it can go. Like, I'm that person anyway.
Yeah.
And if I'm nervous, it's gonna be wasted. Like, I'm totally not the widow with the perfume. I never would have dumped expensive perfume on Jesus' feet. Never. I never would have.
Yeah.
I watched it.
Yeah, like, I'm sorry. And I'm not judging her all. She's my example. So that's beautiful.
Yeah.
But I so want to know that when I give, it matters. Like, when I'm at the register and they say, do you want to donate $1 to the whatever, I never say yes. Because I'm always like, how much infrastructure is a part of the organization? No, I'm asking all of my, like.
That's why I think it's being all in first relationship wise kind of supersedes what other all-ins might follow. Because if in a relationship, you know they're not, you can know that they're not at a point where they're ready to steward what you give them. Then you just keep going all in relationship, but not. Does that make sense?
I give what they can.
Like, I think there's wisdom in.
Yeah.
So like,
That's what I want to be so much, is wise.
when I see the homeless people begging at Walmart or Giant, wherever, I always pray first, because I want to know, like, I would give to all of them.
Yeah.
But then I also had that thought, what are they doing with my money?
Mm-hmm.
So, but then I feel like that's the judgment, like,
Yeah.
who am I to say
Well,
what they're doing with it? So I pray first, and then, so some people I drive right by. Another family, I just took them into Walmart and took them shopping not too long ago.
And I think that's
It's
where
just what
Ryan
God-
said earlier,
yeah.
don't not put God in a box, because sometimes it might be more of a situation where he wants us to think more about it and do a little bit more specific, and sometimes it's just do this and trust.
Yeah.
And sometimes like I don't know about the situation where they're gonna be homeless, is that a process that they just need to walk out themselves also? I mean, sometimes we need to realize that some people, there are processes that they have to walk out.
Yeah.
And while we want to help them,
And rescue.
and rescue, like I'm a rescuer, like I don't like to see anybody in distress ever. Like,
Yeah.
so,
I love you, Sherry.
so then you have that too, like these processes, that's mine or theirs.
Well,
So-
sometimes that, maybe that all in walking with them while they're doing that process. And other times it's giving to a need during it.
Well, as far as homeless people go, all you need to do is listen to them, and then you just need to speak goodness into them. That's it. And they'll turn around, just like that.
It might
Once they get that
oversimplify it a
way.
little bit.
Huh?
That might oversimplify it a little bit.
Well,
Yeah, especially for someone that's only days from homelessness.
Yeah.
Like, they're not at that point yet, but
Yeah.
they might be soon.
I mean, the book of Proverbs, I mean, there's so much about wisdom in fools, to Diane's point. You know, about what you do with your resources. You know, I mean, there's a lot there, but then it goes back to that. Or what are you willing to die? Like, can you set aside all your judgment for that?
Well, and that's why I think it's so important to trust, is like, we all, and I'm not judging, but like we all stand there on Sunday mornings and sing, Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders, let me walk upon the waters wherever you would call me.
Spirit, lead me where I'm comfortable.
Yeah, that's it. I'm like, what the
I'll
heck,
stand
why
here on
did
the
that when I
shore.
just prayed that Sunday morning? So that's
Yeah.
why I think when Diane's saying about not putting him in a box, that's so important, because when you trust him without borders, it doesn't matter what he's asking you to do, because you trust him enough to know that he's got you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the question, is who do you trust?
Yeah.
Because if you're giving to a person, yeah, they may not be very wise stewards with what you're giving. It depends on the circumstances. But if the Lord has led you to do it and you trust Him, there's a balance in the wisdom. And it's really circumstantial, it really is. Every situation is going to be different, every relationship is going to be different as far as that goes. But the Lord leads you there and you trust Him in it. Even when the circumstances of giving into that person makes no sense.
That's why I like what Sherry just said. She said, whose process is this?
Yes.
Mine or theirs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because say you give to that person and they burn you,
Right?
inevitably, that was for your growth.
Yep.
Yeah.
And, you know, if they ask for, help me out, my scholars, my scripture rememberers, if they ask for your shirt, give them your coat, how is that, you know? How do you, what do you do with that?
How many times have you taken off your shirt?
Like, literally?
In a while.
Like literally.
Yes.
We're not that kind of group.
But it's hard to reconcile that, right?
Why don't you walk it out and find out what it looks like? Because that's the experience is what God's looking for. Will you move? Will you go ahead and exchange a shirt with someone?
Yeah.
Will you go ahead and do something? And see, we're not doing anything, we're not going anywhere, so God can't give you an experience, can He?
Yeah.
Okay, so the joke is that Nick would give you my house and I will not give you my house. That's why the Lord married me to Nick, because somebody. So it's interesting, every time we're faced with an opportunity to give, Nick's amount is always twice my amount. Almost predictably. I have a number in mind, I'll say, hey, what do you have in mind to give? He'll give me a number and it's twice what I.
Sometimes do you think, and I'm not here to put you on the spot, do you think like low on purpose so that his double? I'm just saying.
Genius!
$2.
It's kind of like all out, but anyway.
So, and I know the Lord created both of us.
Yeah.
So the way that we've walked through it so far, is we do it in the middle.
Yeah.
Like Nick's extravagance meets my, I'm not gonna say stingy because I'm not.
Conservative,
My
thoughtful.
wisdom, people. And we marry those two things together, and like, I just wonder, we've been talking lately about how the God is so full of extremes. You know what I mean? And so I wonder too, if we also need that's why the body is so necessary in this case too, to
Yeah.
bring harmony.
I mean, the other thing, so, you know, we're kind of, sometimes it's about money, right? I mean, we talk about, you know, what we want to, like if I want to give a person $100 or whatever that amount is, or 50 for Diane.
75, Erin.
50. Anyway, boy, where did I just go there?
To the auction.
I just completely, it left
We
me.
were talking about bringing balance, or,
Well, I think we all have I'll save you.
Yes, thank you.
No, but I think we all have a piece to contribute.
Yeah.
So when you think about being all in for one another, I think, oh my gosh, I don't know if my heart can be all for you,
Yeah.
but I myself can't be all for you.
Right.
Like, I have a piece to contribute, which looks different than your piece that you have to contribute. That's
Yeah.
why we have a body that needs to work together. So I can't meet all needs.
Yeah.
It's true.
Which that's where we go wrong with, that's where we place false expectations on people, because we want them to meet every need that we have. And
Yeah.
realizing that they really only have a piece
Yeah.
to deposit.
Like, so you become the source, and you should never become the source.
Right.
It's like,
Correct.
I'm gonna get people saved. No, Jesus takes care of that.
Mhm.
So don't become the source. So that's one piece. You know, the other thing is so let's go to somebody that is, you know, somebody that's chronically unemployed. Okay? It's easy to say, here, pay your electric this month. It's easier to do that than to figure out, all right, so what's happening here? Like investing yourself to say, all right, what can I do to help you? And that type of thing. It's easier. It's much easier to just give money,
Yeah.
or to give advice, you know, than to actually
Be part of it. Be
say,
part of the answer.
like, I'm gonna walk with you
Yeah.
through this thing.
Help carry their burden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit of a chicken exit too, because just handing somebody a $5 as opposed to picking them up, taking them to a restaurant, talking to them,
Yeah.
praying for them, that takes more investment of yourself.
Yeah.
Whereas, well, I'll give them a $10
Yeah.
instead of $5, and that's like it makes you feel good, but you really didn't do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, well, you did something, but you didn't do what you should have done possibly for that circumstance.
And are you giving out of need, or are you giving, you know, to someone's need, or are you giving through obedience? What does God actually want you to go ahead and do with this person? You know, you're supposed to make a contact with this.
Yeah.
So obedience is so much, that's what God really wants you to go ahead and deal with. So, you know, ask yourself, God, what do you want me to do here?
Right.
And follow that obedience, not the need, you know, because you have needy all around you. You yourself is needy.
Yeah.
You don't even know that. But if we go ahead and understand what obedience is, because we'll go ahead and walk that out.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's important to pray for discernment when you're walking something out, because for me, I hate to see people hurt. So when someone's ready, oh, I'll come along and take it from you, and then they are missing out on a vital experience. Like, I went through crap 2 years ago, and so many times I sat there and Mark and told him, Mark, help me, just take this, blah, blah, blah. But if he would have taken that from me, then I would have missed out on who I am right now, and I would have not have gotten to the place where I am right now,
Yeah.
because someone else tried to take it from me. So I think it's important to not enable somebody
Right.
by trying to be there. Like, I think it's very important to pray for discernment and wisdom on how to walk that out while letting them go through that process and not taking it from them, because it's theirs, it's not yours.
So in that case, love allowed you to suffer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Mark sat there and told me I was in a beautiful place, and I was like, no, I'm not. But, I mean, where I am now is milestones from where I was, but if Mark would have just taken all that and taken the hit and not let me walk through stuff,
Yeah,
I wouldn't be where I am.
yeah.
And some things it will only take 5 minutes of your time. Other things will go ahead and take several years of your time.
Yeah.
Are you willing to go ahead and put up with those years?
Yeah.
But you know what, she had this choice, almost the same choice as the rich young ruler. Because she could have, if he could have said that to her, and she would have said, no help here, and walked away from it.
Yeah.
But she,
That's
Yeah.
true.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she stayed, yes.
Yeah.
She stayed in.
Yeah.
All
Good, thank you for wrapping that back into. Alicia?
As far as it goes for the family in our church needs the home, the least we can do is pray, because we have the authority to call forth things into manifestation. Our prayers, when our heart is really set on finding an answer for these people, it really makes a way.
Yeah.
And the Lord hears it, so He honors that as sons and daughters. He listens to us, and He does answer our prayers, so that is the very least that we can do for them.
It's establishing
All right, well, I only had like 3 scriptures, so. we got but seriously, like, back to kind of what my hope was, is that we consider where we're at and like where our limits are and see if we can push those limits a little bit. And it kind of begins with doing a little bit of, I just encourage you over the next few days to think about it and just see where you're at. See where you want to be. We all have different levels of all in, okay? But we should work towards that further in piece of it. So that's my encouragement there. And that's it.